Hello everyone, my name is Prithvi and welcome once again to the YouTube channel of Backstage Millennials. In this video of Startup 101 series, I'm going to be talking about ESOPs. I'm going to be talking about what ESOPs are, what are the different stages in ESOPs, how do you buy or sell the ESOPs, and what are the different terms and terminologies which are related to ESOPs that everyone needs to be aware about, whether you are an employer or you are an employee. So let's get started. So the full form of ESOPs is Employee Stock Options Program, and under which companies basically give a certain number of shares to their employees when they are joining or they have completed a milestone in a company. Let's say one employee, whenever they complete 1, 2, or 3 years working with the company, they're granted some sort of shares. And in a lot of times, the companies also give those shares to the employees when they're joining the company. And in a lot of cases, this happens when the companies are either bootstrapped or companies are in a very initial level when they don't really have a lot of salary to pay the employees. So what they say is that, okay, we will give you these many shares just to make sure that the employee, whoever is joining the company, sort of feels an ownership in the company and really feels a responsibility that, okay, this is my responsibility to help the company grow. This also helps the company not to really give a lot of money in the salaries right at the beginning, especially if the company is a bootstrapped company, because they might or might not be having a lot of money to give as a salaries. So there are two times when an employee gets the ESOPs. One, when he is joining, and other times there are certain milestones which are given by the company to the employee. Let's say the company says that every year that you work with us, you will be getting certain shares, 500,000 or 10,000 shares, whatever which is mutually agreed between that company and that employee. Once that person keeps working with the company, he keeps getting these shares. This does not only happen in startups, this also happens in the big companies. Let's say if you follow the Google and Microsoft, whenever they hire big employees, and every year there is a news, let's say Satya Nadella or Sundar Pichai, they get this much in compensation. Out of that, this much percent of their compensation was in shares. So all of those shares are usually ESOPs when the employees are getting, whenever they complete a milestone with the company. So there are certain terms which are related to ESOPs. One is the vesting period, one is the grant date, one is the exercise, and the final one is sale. So I'm going to be talking about all of these. So grant date is usually when the option of those employee stock options program is granted to an employee. Let's say I'm joining a company on the first day and the company says that, okay, you will get 500 shares of this company when you complete 1 year of your employment with us. And after that, every 2 years, you'll be getting 500 more shares for every 2 years. So that is whenever there is an option for me to get that share, whenever the company clarifies or whenever the company formally gives me that authority to have a share, no matter after how many years or how many months that is known as a grant date. And after that, whenever you're getting a share, you always have that option. In that agreement, it is always mentioned that after how many months or how many years, you can sell, or you can you get the authority to sell or do anything with that share. And that period is known as vesting period. In most of the cases, it is 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, depending on different companies. So there is obviously no law which is governing all these things. So every company sets up their own rules, and every company does give these details to their employees whenever they're joining or whenever they are completing a milestone, when they are getting the grant or when they are granted these ESOPs. So after vesting period, there is something called exercise, when you finally have the authority to sell the share. That is known as exercise. And finally, when you sell the share, the ESOPs, that is known as a sale. So these are the 4 terms or 4 stages which are in an ESOPs. Whenever you're working with a company, there are a lot of people do ask me that, do we have to pay taxes on these ESOPs? So yes, and every single country has different tax laws. So in US, using certain parameters, you can sort of cut down on your taxes. But in India, there are 2 times that you will have to pay taxes on your ESOPs. So one, when you exercise the rights, so on that you have to pay share, and when you finally sell the shares, on that you'll have to pay either the long-term gains or short-term gains, depending on how much of time did you hold those shares for, and also how much tax you pay depends on the slab that under which you are. So how much ever you are making from selling those shares, accordingly you will have to pay the taxes. So apart from that, there are also certain things that are related to ESOPs and which actually end up confusing people. One, that suppose you get 500 shares at the beginning of your tenure with the company. So do those 500 shares remain 500 till the time you leave that company or till the time the company raises more funds? So for that, the answer is no, because with every single transaction, let's say a company is raising more funds or company is getting split or anything. So whenever a share is splitting, so either they split one share into 2, 5 or 10. So accordingly, your share will also be splitted. So if you have 500 shares and if the company after 2 years, if the company says that, okay, we have split a share of 1:10, so your 500 shares will also become 5,000 shares and you will also get the value accordingly. So splitting of the share does not really mean that the value of your share increases, because when you split the share, the value also decreases by that margin. So let's say if there is one share of a company is $100 and you have split that share 1:10. So that means that you have converted one share into 10 shares. So that actually will mean that those 10 shares will be of $10 value each. So splitting a share does not really increase your ESOP's value, but it certainly does increase the number of shares that you want. And also another thing is, whenever you are selling your ESOPs or whenever the company is selling some of its stocks, whenever the company is raising some funds, there is some sort of dilution that happens. And with every single round of dilution that happens in the company, your share will also be diluted. So let's say when you are at the beginning of your company and the company gives you 0.1% of the shares, and after 2 years, if the company has ended up raising, let's say 2 or 3 rounds, you won't be holding just 0.1% of the share right till the end, because that 0.1% of share will keep on diluting as the founders or as the other shareholders of the company dilute their stock or dilute their shares to raise more funds. So talking about the advantageous part of ESOPs usually, so the advantage is obviously whenever there is a new person who is joining and he doesn't really have any trust in the company or he doesn't really know a lot about the company, and the company also does not have a lot of money to pay to him. So in those cases, ESOPs really come handy, and ESOPs also help the company to retain their best talent. So let's say there is a CTO in a company who was not the original founder of the company, and the company keeps paying him certain number of shares every year, whenever he's working with the company, or when he began, the company paid him a certain number of shares. He always gets that sort of ownership and ownership feeling, no matter how big or small that is, but he or she has the ownership in the company. So that always motivates people to work harder for the company. And also because of the milestone based ESOP program, everyone, people do keep looking up to the milestone that, okay, if I complete 1 year or 2 year or 3 year with that company, I'll be getting these more and more shares, and that will keep on increasing my ownership in the company. And that is always apart from the salary. So you are always getting a salary, but these employee stock option program is always apart from the salary. So that always gives a sense of responsibility to the employees who are working with your company, and this also helps the company to retain those people without paying, let's say, a lot of compensation in the real cash terms. This also helps keep the employee really motivated to work with that company and for a longer period of time. So this was my video on ESOPs. I really feel that you like this video, and if there is any queries or any comments that you have for this video, feel free to write in the comment section, and I'll be more than happy to reply to every single of them. If there is anyone who you think will find this video useful, please share it with them, and like and share this video, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.